What is up, Critics? In this video I'm going to be giving a guide for this week's normal time trial, RC Bandito time trial, and the premium race totaling over $300,000. Remember, the time trials can only be completed once a week for the full $100,000 payout. The premium race, however, can be completed in a limited amount of times with a 48-minute cooldown between each win. Also keep in mind that rocket-powered / flying vehicles cannot be used in time trials. So, starting off with the time trial this week, which is Raton Canyon, I highly recommend either the Hakuchu Drag, Shotaro, or a Baddie 801 for this time trial. Now this time trial is definitely one of the harder ones as the off-road path is a bit tricky. That is why again I recommend using a bike. Now in terms of route, there's some shortcuts here as you can see which are pretty simple except for the second one, which is a bit of a risk. You can alternatively also use the regular path for that section as well. As always, I will be attempting to use either the casino podium vehicle or the prize ride of the current event week on these time trials if they're quick enough to complete them. So for this event week, we have the RT3000 as the prize ride and the peyote gasser on the casino podium. Now the RT3000 is a lot quicker than the gasser, so that's the one I ultimately attempted the time trial with. And honestly, I gave it my all. I tried many times to beat it with this car, but it just handles way too poorly off-road, causing you to slow down extra than you need to. As to be expected from a tuner car, it's not meant to off-road well at all. So I was forced to pick an alternative, and I didn't want to take the easy route just going and using a bike, so I decided to give it a shot with the best rally car in the game, which is the Issy Sport. And with that one, I was just barely able to beat it, and on top of that, it was raining during my run, which really didn't help. But that just goes to show how much grip the Issy Sport really has. Moving on to this week's RC Bandito time trial, which is Vespucci Beach. As always, you need to own an RC Bandito in order to participate in these. Now this RC time trial is a bit tricky, but it does give a lot of extra time to complete it, even if you make some mistakes. As always, remember that in the bumpy high-speed corners, make sure to let off the throttle. If you find the Bandito going on two wheels or flipping over every time you go over a bump, try letting off that throttle before the bump, then get back on the throttle after the bump and you won't have that issue. And for the lower speed tight corners, make sure to brake, and when you use those brakes, make sure to press them in about halfway, not all the way, or you might lose control of your Bandito. And lastly, we have this week's premium race, which is Senora Freeway. Now this one is restricted to the supercars class. I highly recommend either the Vest 8, Emirates, or a Krieger for this race. Now this one is pretty easy for the most part. The trickiest part of this time trial is definitely slipstreaming your opponents, because there's a few corners in this race and a lot of times you'll get slipstream right before the turn or even during the turn, which does not help you at all. That's when you don't want the slipstream, because slipstreaming right before a corner pretty much makes your brakes useless, and slipstreaming during a corner can make you understeer right off the track, so you gotta be very careful with that. But at the same time, you can't fall too behind either, so again, just try to use that slipstream during the straightaways. And you'll see in my run, I had a bit of close calls, getting way too comfortable with the slipstream and trusting the Vest 8 a little too much in some of the corners, and I had a few different close calls there, but it's just very unpredictable and it can affect your speed differently every time. Now ultimately, the best car for this race in my opinion is definitely the Vest 8, because again, there's only like 2 main corners in this race, and the Vest 8 maintains itself at the top very well pretty much the entire race, and in that last straightaway to the finish line, it just has a higher top speed than the Emirates and Krieger, and they just can't keep up. And that's it guys, the normal time trial is definitely a bit tricky, but a bike definitely makes it a lot easier. The RC time trial is pretty difficult if you've never done it before, so just make sure to let off the throttle for most of it, and of course you have a lot of extra time in that one, so don't worry about it too much. And again, this week's premium race might take some practice if you've never done it before, but overall it's pretty easy if you get slipstream very cautiously. Again, remember guys, you can earn over 300,000 between the 3 this week, and setting yourself a goal to beat them is always a lot of fun in my personal opinion. Let me know which one you found most difficult and what vehicles you use down below in the comments. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.